All right, so I'm going to go through with an example and talk about how you might start filtering and processing your data in the sheets. And as you're doing this for yours, you want to sort of keep track of the decisions that you're making. So if you're getting rid of data points or making restrictions or exclusion criteria, you want to keep track of that. But then also, I'm going to show you an example of some data. This is actually, so a spirometer actually measures breathing rates, breathing volumes. So I'm going to show you an example of kind of a similar study design, and then you can actually make the decisions about the ones that we're doing. So the first thing that I would do, and I'll explain this data kind of as I'm going through, but I would duplicate your, and we have a copy of the data as well, but you probably want kind of a copy that you're messing around with in case you ever need to revert back to the original data. You can always do that. So just some things in terms of working with sheets. If I want to get rid of any column, so this was just a code that we had assigned to people. You can either, so a lot of times right clicking will get you some options that you might want. So you can like delete a column or you can hide a column, and then you can always get that back up here. If you, just by clicking on that arrow, you can unhide the column. So the first thing that you want to do is kind of sort through, and I'm going to show you both for the spirometer, but then also for the health survey. This is in kind of this formatted table, and some people really like these. I actually don't like them, but there's some advantages for easy filtering and things like that. But in the spirometer data, so I might decide, so I have basically, and again, this was from a previous school, data about chest circumference, hours of physical activity, height. Tidal volume is how much air you're taking in on each breath. And we did this resting. And then vital capacity is the maximum breath that you can take. And then we did a ventilation rate at the resting. So how many breaths per minute. And then this, oops, let's see. And then this last column is essentially how much air they're taking in and out per minute. So let's just say that maybe I want to look for, and I'm actually going to just start, maybe I want to look at a relationship between hours of physical activity and then maybe just this tidal volume at rest. And actually, this is all that data, but I'm going to, yeah, I might actually just hide everything but the average. And I'm starting to try to get, and then maybe vital capacity, I don't need these. And I'm just right clicking and hiding the columns that I don't need. And then eventually I might, after I filter for things, hide some more so that I'm just making a plot of the data that I want. So kind of flipping back and forth here when you're thinking about so yeah, sorry, let's see. Maybe, right, so I'm looking at hours of physical activity and then maybe this tidal volume at rest. So notice that first things first, I am missing some of this data. So these that were divided by 0 were people that actually didn't do the tidal volume at rest, or maybe they didn't have, yeah, this person just didn't do that. So I can either hide these people or I can delete them. And again, I'm just going to go over to the row. Right, if I've decided those are my variables, I can't use these people. So I'm going to start getting rid of them. The other thing that you can do is you can sort a column, and this you can do up at the top just by this little arrow. But again, you can also right click and you can sort that column sort the sheet based on that column. And so I could sort this column and just find who are the people that, oh, actually, they don't bring those up, but I could kind of go through and delete these people that don't have data. And I'm going to sort of filter back and forth between our sheet, so grade 9 health, in the formatted table. You can, and again, I might say like, I don't need these timestamp, right? So I have the age. You can obviously adjust these so that you can see more things on your page. You might, you can also change the heading, right? So if this is just resting heart rate in beats per minute, you can make this easier for you to actually filter. And this is, again, why I don't always love, right? You can make this change in heart rate, whatever, so that you can actually see it. But you also might just decide that I don't care about, right? You could just hide that data that you don't need eventually. Let's say that I'm trying to look at caffeine per day and resting heart rate. If you click here, so this little arrow will show you the filtering options, and it will actually show you all the different values that you have there. And it often will show you, actually, it's funny, there are none here. It will show you if there are blanks, but it'll also show you things like this 5/3. You have to decide, what does that mean? So is that 5 milligrams divided by 3 days? So you might just choose to exclude these here. And so in this sheet, it will show you, if you start filtering things, it will show you that you only have some of the rows displayed. So again, let's see if we can find one. So like this one, right? This subject is missing a BMI. So if BMI were my variable, I could go down and I could say, actually just get rid of anybody that doesn't have a data point for that. And then you also want to think about what are reasonable data points, and you want to look for ones that you think are inaccurate. And then we'll also talk about, filtering a range as well. But if we look through these, some of these, like a BMI of 112 is really unrealistic. So this might be somebody put in a data point for the wrong row. But if there's something that you actually think is a mistake, right, you can actually take those out as well. But then you'll see that some of those were filtered. And for the spirometer data too, if I go down hours of physical activity 1/2, right, I can just change that to a decimal. So you'll have to make a judgment call, but you want to keep track of these things and keep them in your methods. Now thinking about, you're looking for a relationship between these two variables. And so you want to think about other variables that could have affected either one of those. And so I'm now thinking probably mostly about tidal volume. Is there something other than physical activity that can affect the tidal volume? And so there's a number of factors that might have an effect. First of all, right, so we actually took notes about people that were sick on the day of collection or leading up to it. And those are people that I would want to exclude. So kind of looking here, we're going to stratify by sex. So we're going to keep males and females separate. Restriction, so I'm going to give an example of that in a second, might be something here like, so notice that we had people of different ages. So we had these 8-year-old kids. And so I might just sort and say, actually, I think we have most data about 16 and 17-year-olds. So we're actually going to get rid of these younger people because their tidal volume at rest might be a function of their size, right? It's not really a function of their physical activity, but size is going to also affect their, again, this is the amount of air that they're bringing in on a resting breath. So I'm going to delete those people. And then also notice that we have some older people in here. So I'm just going to include teenagers in my study, but I might want that data for another question. So I might want to know how does age affect, tidal capacity. But for my question, it makes sense to just use people with a similar age. And I might also want to look at height. So is somebody who's a lot bigger is that going to have an effect on their tidal volume more so than exercise rates? So I might just look here. And one thing that you can also look at is, yeah, so interesting. There's some people that don't have height. I have to get rid of them. And then some people where I think they measured this in meters, not centimeters. So if I think that I can reasonably, again, I'm keeping track of this. I don't know about that one, but if I'm not sure, I should get rid of the data point. But if I think in that case they recorded in meters instead of centimeters, I can make that change. Again, keeping note of all these decisions that you're making, because this is part of your method. These are the decisions that you're making about the processing of the data. So when I now sort this, so I actually want this little arrow here, sort sheet A to Z. Now I'm thinking, are there any people that are so tall that that's going to have an effect on their vital capacity? Okay, then, right, I notice this person that makes no sense in terms of leaders. I'm going to get rid of them. We're only going to have you guys look for, so again, we're stratifying based on sex. We're going to graph those separately. The restriction or exclusion criteria, you probably don't want to go crazy here. So you want to think about what's the one variable that really could impact either one of your two variables that you're measuring. So for mine, I mean, it makes sense that you may look for multiple exclusion criteria, but we're really just asking you guys to think about the one that's going to have the greatest effect. So looking at your data, if you're measuring heart rate, which of these other variables is going to affect heart rate other than the other variable that you're looking for that correlation between.